Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the High Performance Zone. Today, I have Chase Chewning. He has over 2 million downloads from his podcast called the Ever Forward Radio. But listen, man, we get into some heartfelt stuff here, connecting the heart and the head. We talk about, how do you connect your passion to make it a business? And he says, scratch the itch. Dive into that. There's a lot of deep metaphor there. We talk a lot about our fathers, both being military people, but more importantly, what we learned from them. And, morning habits, morning wake ups, this idea of connection, touch, the idea of hydration, the idea of movement, and then sunlight. Above all, this podcast is about love and connection. Enjoy this. And if you're ever thinking about doing a podcast, listen here. You'll get a lot of good wisdom. Here we go. Ready? Hit it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the High Performance Zone. Today, I am super excited to have the epic Chase Chewning with us. And Chase, first off, show me your left bicep, man. There's something on there that I think is a message. There you go.
And now I got to flex, but it wasn't arm day, so I'm not juicy. There we go. But
I love it, brother. Yeah. I love it. What does ever forward mean, man?
Ever forward, what does it mean? Very timely question. I'm kind of going through, I will say, a mantra reinterpretation, if you will. Nice. Ever forward was this mantra, this phrase, this philosophy, this way of being that my father instilled in us growing up. He actually picked up, he was in the Army himself. He picked it up from his first unit, 116th Infantry Regiment.
Really?
He was National Guard before he went active. He wound up serving with 101st Airborne out of Fort Campbell. And so
you're an Army brat. I know you went into the Army. We'll talk more about that, but you grew up in the Army.
Basically. Yeah. And, my father, I remember he came home from boot camp when I was, I think 4-5 years old. Yeah. And from that moment on, he ran with this phrase that he picked up from that unit, and their creed, their motto, their unit crest is quite literally still, has been for hundreds of years, ever forward, ever forward.
And that was the Air National Guard or the 101st?
Army National Guard. Army National Guard.
Right, yeah. You know what? No kidding. So I'm on an airplane. I know you're heading out right after this podcast, going to Tucson. We already talked. You got a lot going on. So I'm getting home last night. It's about 10 p.m. and I'm on Delta and the movie Patton. I'm sitting there. Well, and so I'm going, man, I got to watch this again, at least part of it. That opening epic scene with him in front of the flag. But I get to the part where he tells, I think it's in the opening speech. He goes, don't anybody ever send me a message we're holding our ground. He goes, I never want to hear that. He goes, we're moving forward. We're always moving forward. So right with your ever forward, man. That's awesome.
There's so much military integration with this phrase. And then, it became part of our family kind of belief system. And then it really, I say I'm kind of going through a reinterpretation of it because I picked it up again in a very unique way when he passed away from a terminal illness back in 2005. And it was a way for me to kind of just really survive. It was this thing that I was able to latch onto in order to just endure that grief. My father was my hero, my best friend, and it really rocked my world and my family's world. So for years, Ever Forward was just this way for me to stay connected to him and just, have a positive memory and, kind of live and work and act out of this legacy. But I'm at a point now, John, 17 years later, I can't believe it's been that long since he left us, that I am finally kind of really making my own meaning out of it. And I'll say for me, Ever Forward is really turning into just a constant practice of presence, of being here and present in the here and the now. And just, it's kind of turned into the secondary phrase that I've just adopted lately. And you are exactly where you are supposed to be. Right. Because the more and more I have been able to shift from just constantly go, 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 which has its time and its place, to kind of reining it in a little bit and just being like, I am right here right now for a purpose. And if I find just a moment, I can grab and pull that purpose out of it. And by doing so, I know that it's going to propel me forward. So same, but different,
Yeah. Oh man, I love it. What is, I love the presence and the awareness. And what is your purpose right now? So we're both here, we're present. What is it for you?
I truly feel like my purpose right now is to be a champion in a unique way that I have never been before. So much of my life has been shared publicly. I've chosen to do the social media thing, share so much of my life online. I share so much of my life, for years I was a coach. And so I would work very closely with people and get very, very intimate with them in order to kind of peel back the layers of what is keeping them from moving forward in their life, to be successful, to get to the gym, to lose the weight, to have a healthy, well life. And so I really feel like right now I'm being called to champion kind of like holding the line, so to speak, like we're talking about there with Patton in that and all the other things. But really, it's just this profound mental and emotional revolution that I've gone through this last year that has given me the most incredible ROI in terms of my life, my relationships, even my physical health, my business. And true to form, anytime I find anything that works for me in my wellness, and your mental health, your emotional health is absolutely a part of your wellness, I'm being called to kind of, create something in a very unique way. So much so I don't want to give away too many details now, but I'm creating an entire new brand out of it, an entire new business, an entire new everything that I feel everything I've been doing thus far, everything ever forward has kind of prepared me for, is for this new venture. And it is going to be to champion bridging the connection between the head and the heart, and to really help bring emotional mental health to the top of people's minds and, to the world.
Man, I love you mentioned the head and the heart, connecting the head and the heart. I like to talk about that too. And real quickly though, this is deep. We've got so many connections. First off, see the glad to be here. We're going to get you one of these.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's the brand that I'm champion, right? I love where you're going, by the way. And glad to be here is a deep meaning. It is meaning everything we're talking about, this idea of being present, this idea of being aware, gratitude, appreciation. But, ironically, it's amazing, Chase. We're doing more of the science on it now. It actually relates to performance enhancement. So this idea of, excellence and operational excellence with an appreciation and a glad to be here mindset, that's where my passion is, right? There's where my purpose is. And I first got exposed to this on the Blue Angels. By the way, I know you're an Army vet, right? So let's go back real quick to your dad, because first off, I want to say thanks for being open and honest about how much he meant to you. He's your hero. That was the same with my dad. He was my hero. He was an Army officer. And in fact, I lived on West Point. All right. He was an instructor at West Point. And so as a little kid, I'm like you, 4 years old, my dad comes in with his uniform on, and that's what I wanted to be, just like my dad, and tell me more about your dad's your hero, but why?
Well, I mean, I think you said it. It was from such a young age. It was this immediate imprint on, wow, like my dad is the coolest. I remember so many times going to base, he was primarily stationed at Fort Campbell. But there were so many air shows and events, and just seeing my dad. I mean, what kind of kid doesn't want to see their dad as this hero, this GI Joe kind of thing? And we would go onto base and we would go to these air shows, and he would have me help climb in and out of all these, choppers and planes and tanks, and just, it was so cool. And I remember even to like a fault, my dad was also our scoutmaster growing up. I was in Boy Scouts until. Yeah. How badass is it to have an 11 Bravo, this badass soldier as your scout leader? All my friends were like, this is so cool. Like we were like little boy soldiers, little toy soldiers, until he couldn't do it anymore. And then I quit the Scouts. But it's and so it was just this immediate imprint on, wow. It was more than that though. It was my dad is someone very, very cool. And I just love that world. That military kind of left a big imprint on me. But and I only have been able to realize this over the last few years, how hard it is to be that and to be everything else that I saw him be. He was, I swear, I saw my dad so often when he stationed hundreds and hundreds of miles away, other states away. He put such an emphasis on being a family man, being a husband, being a father. I'm the oldest of three. I mean, he was so present for somebody who was quite literally not present. And I just, years later, of course, I can appreciate that more as a man myself now. Of he was career driven. He was a leader. He was serving his country. He was taking care of his children. He was honoring his wife. He was being a family man for his mother and father and the rest of his family. And then even more so after that, when he actually, Chewning, I got this running joke, we love to serve, but none of us can make it. He was medically discharged due to a helicopter accident in the Persian Gulf. I wound up getting medically discharged due to injury sustained during active duty as well. And then after he got out, he went into just provider mode, survivor mode. And he no matter what, he took care of his family, and he wound up going into being an entrepreneur and opening up multiple restaurants. And I just saw this leader, this community guy. And so, I mean, he has left a lasting imprint in my life in ways that I'm still unraveling.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. Reminds me a lot about my dad, but also the multifaceted approach of being not just a soldier, but a father, a husband, and the presence there, and then entrepreneur. Now I can see where you get your entrepreneur skills in. I want to talk a little bit more about what you're doing, because you're crushing it out there. Last thing on the dads, though, is kind of cool. We were blessed, right? Because not everybody has a father like that. And, I just think about my dad. I don't need definitions for integrity and character, because I just think of my dad. It's not a word thing. It's the way he lived his life. And he also made big decisions. He was a colonel in the Army. He was district engineer of Los Angeles, and they were giving him a brigade commander on the way to a 1-star, right? And I was in high school. I was between my junior and senior years, and it was Leavenworth. Yeah, I was supposed to go out to Fort Leavenworth. And, I actually didn't want to go. I was playing sports and stuff, even though I moved around my whole life. And my dad said, no problem. I'll go out there by myself. And anyhow, the point is that his 3-star, who was his thesis mate at MIT in the engineers, said, okay, no problem, Jack, you can, have like 2 months, whatever it takes. Bottom line was, long story short, he got a call saying, no, I'm changing my mind. I need you here now. My dad actually said, wait a minute, that's not what's best for my family. He retired that day. He said, and he gave up a 1-star. He just said, that's not what I'm doing. And to this day, I look back at it and I go, I'm not sure I would have made that decision. I'm still in the career building mode and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, but now I look back and I go, there's an amazing, father, right? There's someone that's putting somebody else above themselves. So we've been blessed, and thank you on that. Hey, let's dive in, because I know we don't have a whole lot of time. I want to dive into what you're doing right now. You're out there doing some amazing things that I know our audience is really interested in. So fill us in, coach caster, podcaster, full-time. Go for it, man.
John, I'll say, yeah, there's some names, some titles I could probably link to what I'm doing to make clearer how I work and in the industries that I work. But flat out, what I do these days is I show up. I show up every day, and I'm in pursuit of making myself better in just the smallest way. And we live in a day and age to where, thankfully so, there is a way to make a living out of that. There is a way to commit to a passion, to commit to something that just lights you up like a damn Christmas tree, and to share that experience, those experiences with the world, and to grow a community that is like-minded, that also wants to commit to their pursuit of human optimization, of feeling their best, performing their best, looking their best, serving their best. And that's honestly what I'll say that I do, because over the years, it has allowed me to filter down and filter down and filter down to doing the technical terms and names and things that I do. So I guess to reverse engineer this, yeah, you said the word coach caster. That's kind of the phrase that I would use. I say now I'm a full-time podcaster. I run my show Ever Forward Radio. We're going into our 5th year. January will be 5 years. And thank you. 5 years, nearly 2 million downloads and over 500 episodes. It's been just the most incredible gift, the most fun opportunity I have ever created for myself. And it just continues to unfold new opportunities. And so I say that because let me reverse engineer. So that's what I'm doing now. And in conjunction with that, the last 2 years, I've kind of realized that this is a very growing industry. Podcasting, content creation, this long format content is becoming more popular. More and more brands and individuals and entrepreneurs want it, need it for their business, for the content. And so out of that, just out of having longevity in the game, I kind of became the guy that a lot of people would come to. Hey, Chase, how do you do a podcast? Hey, how do I integrate this into my business like you did with your coaching business? How do you get sponsors? How do you make this content? How do you go to these places, do these things? And I'm like, well, it's the podcast. And so I've been able to create a whole new business out of that called Operation Podcast. I had to keep my military roots,
Yeah, I like it.
And then before that, I was juggling kind of two worlds. I was Coach Chase and Podcaster Chase. And I was doing that for almost 2 years. And where I had an online health coaching business. My background is I'm a ACE certified health coach. I have been since 2015. Went to undergrad for exercise science, got a master's in health promotion with a concentration in nutrition and a bunch of other certifications.
American University? Is that
American University for grad school in DC, and VCU in Richmond, Virginia, hometown, my home state of Virginia there. And so, I was qualified and professional, and I had, this education and ability to kind of coach people. That's what I was doing before my own business. And I was also a podcaster full time. And so I was coaching and I was podcasting, and it was all related. So the more and more that I would podcast, the more and more I would talk about fitness, nutrition, mindset, made me better at my job as a coach. I was able to keep an ear to the ground, an ear to the streets, as they say. And any new trend, any new workout, any new author, any new event, I had built this opportunity, this platform to bring people on to talk about it at length. And so it just made me more curious, a better sponge, and a better coach. But around summer 2019, I decided to kind of hang up the health coach hat, and I've strictly just been podcaster since then. And then rewind 2 years before that, the end of 2017, I hung up my hat in the 9-to-5 world. For almost 4 years at that point, I had been a health coach and the wellness director for this concierge medical practice. So it was like this, membership, high-end doctor's office. You get guaranteed appointment times and all these extra things, to take care of your health. And part of that was coming to see people like me, my team of health coaches. We had offices all up and down the East Coast. Wow. And so we would work. It was like this traditional allopathic care, primary care, coupled with fitness, nutrition, body composition analysis, wellness groups, weight loss programs, all these things to get people well, keep them well, and hopefully even get off and stay off medication. And so it was just all through those experiences, I realized that what I wanted to do was more of that creative aspect. And I was getting outside. I was really thinking and had this kind of internal knowing that I needed to leave that safety nest, that 9-to-5 of the known world, because there was so much more that I wanted to create. And I was seeing so much of what was going on in social media and what was possible when people were jumping all in to content creation, being an entrepreneur. And so, that's kind of the amalgamation of what I'm doing and all the hats that I've worn over the years.
I love thanks for taking us through that journey. There's got to be so many lessons. And by the way, you've compact that journey. Some people take 20, 30 years to make that.
I feel like a lot of lives in a short period.
Man, you have, and all of them. I mean, we could dive into so many things here. I want to go right to the passion, though, and making your passion into reality, into a business, but also to help people, right? Because that's what I heard you say is that, at the end of the day, it's creating that community, but it's about helping others, right? So what kind of advice would you give people listening, myself, on the idea of creating your passion into a business?
Whatever it is that you're thinking you want to do, or even feel like you need to do, scratch that itch. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing right now. I think because of where we are in the world, and especially with the shimmer and shine and lure and appeal of social media, we see, everyone can do it. It's so possible. And I do believe that anything is possible. I've proven to myself and seen in so many other people that even things that I didn't even know that I wanted or could do are possible. It's just a matter of needing to be in that world and the power of, presence around other like-minded people. Yeah. But I truly believe, I think there's something inside of us, for most of us, not everybody, but most of us, there's this thing, this knowing, this thing in the back of our head, this gut check that I really want to do this. I'm feeling called to this project, or why do I light up so much when I'm doing this, or I'm around types of people, or I'm reading these types of books, or looking at this type of content. And I'll take it a step further, and I'll even say, I think a lot of us already have that calling. We just don't realize it. And case in point, something that I say,
fear, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about just being afraid to try. But keep going.
That's a limiting factor for sure. And it's a teacher for sure. It's a safety mechanism. Absolutely. But I say this all the time, and I think that it's so true for most of us. Pay attention to the gifts that others already receive from you, because I think therein lies.
Say that again. That's very powerful. Pay attention to the gifts that others already receive from you.
You said it.
Keep going.
What I mean by that is, when someone has a particular type of problem or unique question or curious about something, do they come to you? Are you the person that is always able to just walk people off of the ledge, so to speak, and just help them see objectively, help them see clearly? Are you the person that your girlfriends or your guy friends or whoever come to for relationship advice? If anybody needs a good gift idea, they come to you because you always have the best, unique, personalized gifts. In there is like an extraordinary offer to the world, but it doesn't seem like that to us because it is our ordinary. It is who we are. It is our innate gift. It is just who we are, whatever you want to call it. But that is somebody else's extraordinary. And you may not seem like you have anything unique or cool or revolutionary to offer to the world, but I guarantee you, if you took inventory, there's something unique that only you have in at least your immediate circle. In case in point, for me, it was, my voice, what I'm doing right here, right now. I've heard my entire life, ever since, around like 11 or 12, when puberty hit. You got a great voice. You got a great radio voice. You should do radio. You should do radio. And even, my uncle growing up was in radio his whole life and has always been trying to get me in the studio and pursue that career. And it just never really interested me. But then one day I was going to work at my coaching clinic, and someone mentioned this podcast. And of course, this was like 2015. And I was like, what the hell is a podcast? I've never heard of that before. And they're like, oh, I found this fitness podcast. I think you would really like it. It's, around something that we're talking about here. Have you ever thought about doing that? Like, you got a really good radio voice. And it just clicked. It was something that I heard my entire life. Oh, I've never had any interest in going into radio, but I have become very new and obsessed and in love with this platform called podcasting. What if I just did that? And so let's dissect that a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's more than just someone saying, hey, you have a nice voice. What they're really saying there is, I enjoy listening to what you have to say. It doesn't bother me to pay attention to you. Literally, the sound, the energy, the vibrations going from your voice, your throat box into my ears is enjoyable and pleasant. And I am committing and giving you my time to be here with you, to listen to you. That is a very, very valuable and powerful thing. Yeah. And so here we go. Case in point, my ordinary was somebody else's extraordinary. This natural gift, this thing that I was already doing, people were receiving from me. And now I just finally realized that, hey, here's an opportunity for me to apply that in a way that I'm being told already works.
Yeah, a platform to use your skills, right? It's amazing. By the way, as you were talking about, it's not just your voice. Personally, I think you're able to connect with people by your presence, by the way you answer, by the depth of your message. So it's more than your voice, right? I mean, what people are really connecting to is your wisdom, I think, and caring.
And that served me a lot. I pull a lot from that. I really do think my years of coaching has really helped this platform, because a good coach is someone that can be a good listener. It's not someone that can just stand there and get ready to spout out, you need to do this diet, this workout, you need to build this habit, stop that habit. It's less telling and more listening and more reflecting. Shout out motivational interviewing if anybody's gone through that kind of workshop. But it's, being able to listen and to mirror back and to reflect back and just let people know that you're there. You listen, you hear them. it's more than just listen. You have to hear them and listen to them, and you genuinely care. And then from there, I mean, the path kind of unfolds itself where the conversation needs to go, where next steps are. Maybe you're actually, in that kind of coach-client relationship, but especially in an interview, the more and more I'm able to just listen and hear and mirror back, it just helps guide the conversation in a way that, I receive that comment. So thank you so much, John.
Yeah, well, let's keep it going because I'm learning from you. I'm reflecting, and what's really powerful is something you said, and I thought I'd go back into this idea of how we define ourselves. I love this idea of the I am statement, and you're redefining your business, right? We talked about that. How do you like to answer that question? I am blank. When have you ever thought about that? And let's try it right now, just right off the cuff. How would you answer that question? I am
evolving. I am evolving these days. I really like to attach, whatever after I am is, a verb, a process.
right.
Because if I were to say I am a creator, I am a podcaster, I am whatever, I feel like that's kind of finite. I feel like it's almost too defining. And maybe that's just, the pushing 5 years of being, an entrepreneur and doing my own thing. And I just kind of, realize there's so much more out there. I don't want to put a limit on myself. And so if I can say that I am something that is a process that is in the pursuit of something, that just feels so much more dynamic. And it feels like I am just in the river of life. Because I've realized the more I try to fight that current, try to fight that river of life, it's so much more of a struggle, and I miss out on so many other opportunities. And so the more I can kind of just, I am surrendering, I am growing, I am growing, I am evolving, I am being. It just leaves room for opportunity and leaves room for growth instead of just saying I am a title.
Right. Oh, I love that. By the way, thanks for just being so open and wise on that. I just did this exercise yesterday. I was, I do a lot of speaking and consulting, and I was working with this really high-end insurance company, their top 17 leaders. And we went around and I did this exercise, the I am. And it's interesting how people define themselves. A lot of them do what you didn't do, what you said you could have done. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a leader, I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, there's all kinds of words you can use. And I really like what you did is you picked a process, a path, evolving, because it allows you unlimited opportunities, right? Really cool. Let me ask you a second question on that. And that is, why are you here? So how do you answer that?
I'm here. Two things immediately come to mind for me there. If I can cheat and kind of give two.
Yeah.
I'm here to love, and I'm here to connect.
Nice.
And it's actually, I haven't really said that out loud. It's something that's been very, it's been stirring in me lately as I've been kind of really just going through some new work and peeling back some layers to some emotional healing. I've realized that, again, to kind of paint a picture here of what it means to be a podcaster. I mean, you're also a networker. You trying to connect the dots and your guests and all these things, and looking for opportunities and lining people up, and a networker, a connector, a people person. And I realized that I have this kind of childhood attachment to, like, why do I care so much about connecting not only to other people and with other people, but making sure that this person connects to that person and there's something that comes of it. Yeah. To get into, not to go full down into my childhood trauma, but I'll say,
no, go for it.
My very first memory that I can recollect is what I believe to be the conversation between my mom and my dad that ultimately led them to decide to get divorced. Mm-hmm. We were living with my grandparents at the time, and I was playing in the woods, like a good Southern Virginia boy does. And I was coming down off of this path, and I remember just kind of, it's like this, almost this energy, this feeling that I kind of picked up on first before I even saw my parents. But I just kind of slowed down, and I didn't come all the way down off the mountain, but I just kind of stood up on this path, and I could see on the side of the house We had this carport, this kind of open garage thing. And my mom and my dad were seated on the stairs on the backside facing the backyard. And we had this creek that ran through our backyard. And it seemed okay and fine and safe, but there was just something off-putting about it. And the more and more I kind of leaned in and listened, I realized that they were very, very emotional, especially my mom. And just little glimpses, phrases, words that popped up were, what are we doing here? Why are we here? We don't, how are we going to provide? Where's the money? And it was just like this, and it wasn't anger. It wasn't hatred. It wasn't yelling at each other, but it was just this very clear, raw emotion that there is so much uncertainty of what we are doing and why we are doing it. And then very soon after that, I think literally just days, my mom left. She went to go live somewhere else, and that was the beginning of their separation. Yeah. And that has left this lasting imprint on me, because also she left, but my parents decided very mutually, very amicably, that my brother and I were to stay with my brother, my father, and my sister was going to go with my mother.
Wow.
Boy stay with the guy, girl stays with the woman.
Wow.
And so right then and there, I realized that there's separation amongst us. And being the oldest of three, I quite literally was the only one that had the ability to kind of like to think and to talk at this level and understand what was kind of going on. And the more and more I realized that if I could help bridge the gap between my mom and my dad and my brother and my sister, it was kind of my way of keeping the family together. Yeah, so connection and networking amongst my own family yielded love and prosperity. And so I've realized that, you know, now, and it's not like this need, this anxious attachment need. It is just, it's who I am. Nothing makes me more happy in the world than to meet new people, be a part of their world, and then to immediately, or as soon as possible, try to connect them to other people that I know that I think at least could benefit their missions, because it brings me so much joy. And then I get to see what happens after that. You know, hopefully something happens after that. And I've finally just been able to kind of realize why. So I'm here to love and I'm here to connect, because from as far back as I can remember, it's the only thing I know how to do.
Wow. Chase, first off, thanks for being so vulnerable. But it all makes sense now too, right? And I love that you added the joy in there. I strongly believe that we get more joy out of other people's success than ours, right? Being that connector, being that networker of what you're able to do is probably why you are so successful. Right? It's the giving that comes first, right? I strongly believe you got to give to receive. I wake up every morning and I'm interested in your morning routine. I've got a morning routine. I don't want to go over right now because I already heard yours. Okay. And part of my morning routine is I get down on my knees. I pray. I do some other stuff, you know, meditate and all this kind of stuff. But the key is, just this morning, I said, I want to learn, grow, give. And then I realized I had the order wrong. It starts with giving. Right? You want to give, learn, and grow. So that's my new mantra that I've been saying to myself actually for the last 5 or 6 months now, working on. But over to you. What's your morning routine? Because it's important how you start your day, right?
It is. And I got one. Quite literally the first thing that I do after waking up, and I have a heavy sleep routine too. So like literally the first thing I do is I take off my eye mask. I sleep with a blackout eye mask.
So does my wife, by the way. That's awesome.
Game changer.
Is it?
Oh, love it. I put that thing on. I have one. I keep one in my nightstand. I have another one that I use when I travel. I keep one in my weekender bag as well. So I won't go anywhere without it. Awesome. So I peel off the blackout eye mask and I roll over to my wife and touch her, hug her, kind of bring her a little bit closer. So I'm starting my day off with opening my eyes to the light coming in, and then immediately going to my wife. Yep. Just to like start the day off with that connection.
Isn't touch so important? There's something
so important
about touch. I like what you're talking about here. First off, you're opening your eyes to light, and then there's this warmth of the touch. My wife and I, we cuddle every morning.
Yeah.
But keep going, man. I love this. Go for it.
I'm there. I like to start my day off, you know, just having, even if it's just, sometimes it's literally just a couple brief seconds of that connection, that touch with her. And then my dog usually jumps up and interrupts everything. But
wait, what kind of dog? I got to know right now. What do you got?
So for the first time in my life, I have I call it a non-dog. I got this small, like 12-pound. She's a rescue dog, like a Chihuahua Terrier mix kind of thing. My entire life, I've never had a dog less than like 100 pounds, 80 pounds. I grew up in the country of Virginia. I used to have like 5-7 dogs. We used to have dogs so big, I would literally ride them. I would hop on their backs and ride them as a kid. But she's this amazing little sweetheart dog we adopted years ago.
I like the word non-dog. I'm with you. All right. So I've got laying on my feet right here is our rescue. And she's a Rhodesian Ridgeback.
Great dogs.
Yeah. So I know that you had some big dogs, right? She's actually female. She's 80 pounds, but she is so much joy. And she does the same thing. Morning about 6 a.m. She's flapping her ears because she wants to jump up and cuddle in bed.
She's the same thing as me. She's looking for that touch right away. So, I can start off with a little family time there. And then for me, as soon as possible, actually, let me walk through exact steps. I go and I grab a glass of water, and I'll have anywhere between 16 to 30 ounces, kind of depending on how I'm feeling. But not just any water. I use this device. It's called Somavedic, and it fully structures and harmonizes the water molecules. So the water molecules are actually more complete, and they're more bioavailable, more digestible, and they're actually more hydrating to the body. So I use a high quality water filter, and then overnight I place my glass of water next to the Somavedic device.
This is all. I'm trying to unpack some of your brilliance in nutrition and fitness. What's that name of that again?
It's called Somavedic. Somavedic. I think the full name is called Somavedic International, but it's this beautiful little piece of art device. Actually, I've got it over here in our bedroom now. That's just this beautiful hand blown glass device that has all of these very energetic, tightly wound minerals, crystals with energetic coils around them. That it mitigates EMF, mitigates Wi-Fi, and actually will fully structure and harmonize water molecules. It emits this unique frequency that just works so well with water and hydration, but also our bioenergetics, and mitigates harmful energetics as well. So I'm chugging water, filtered, harmonized, structured water. And then after that, I'm getting outside as soon as possible. Ideally, within the first 30 minutes, I'm outside in the sun, just trying to stimulate that natural melatonin suppression, cortisol rise.
Wait, where do you live?
I live in Los Angeles.
LA, yeah. So that's why you said the sun. So I'm in Sun Valley, Idaho, but it's sunny, but it's cold. I get up, same thing. I get outside, it's 19 degrees, and I get out there without, putting a bunch of clothes on. And I have a routine of stretching and bowing, actually. But keep going, man. We are so far pretty much aligned.
It's connection, it's hydration, it's movement, sunlight. Those are kind of the foundations of what I do. And, I'm outside. Usually if it's not inappropriate for the neighbors, I'll go shirtless, try to get as much sun absorption as possible to get that vitamin D stimulation, sunlight triggering in my eyes for, setting my circadian rhythm. Then, doing some light stretching, taking the dog for a walk. So it's just, connection, hydration, movement, and then I'm able to get on with my day. And then I kind of got a little health cocktail I mix up. Some super greens, some electrolytes, a probiotic powder, some functional medicinal mushrooms. And then I'll have my first cup of coffee, first use of caffeine, usually an hour to an hour and a half after being awake. So I'm not just flooding my body with caffeine and messing up, again, my circadian rhythm or my cortisol. And then that's my morning, man. So my morning routine is probably all in all close to like 2 hours if I really had to think about it. Yeah.
Precious. Hey, I know, speaking of connecting, I know you already know this person, but Andrew Huberman, right?
Yeah.
Have you had him on your show yet?
No, not yet. But yeah, we will absolutely very soon. I would love to get Andrew on, and I've connected with him a couple of times the past few months, and he's new to the podcast space and he's killing it. But yeah, he's a actual genius.
I agree. I mean, he's so adept. It's dense, right? You have to listen to his at least I do, 2 or 3 times to truly get the depth of what he's saying. He just did one 2 weeks ago on gratitude, and definitely listen to it, because what he does is he gets into the science. Of course, that's his whole deal, right? Getting into the really proven science. And what he found was, and I'll share this with you, is that he found that some of the old practices of gratitude don't really work if you define working as being decreasing inflammation, biomarkers, increasing serotonin. And what he found it did is, and again, listen to his podcast or talk to him, but the idea is you need a story around appreciation, not just giving it, but receiving it. So the idea of a story matters, right? And the narrative, but also this idea of the wanting, to live that feeling, which of course we all want to do, but repeating it. And it doesn't have to be that much, but repeating the feeling. And here's what's interesting. It's you get as much observing someone else receiving appreciation that you get if you were to receive it, which I thought was phenomenal.
I mean, there's something to that. I'm sure he could explain it a lot more probably than I could, but
a lot better than I could too. Believe me, go for it.
My understanding is it's, the basic premise of mirror neurons.
Nice.
There's so much that goes on in our brains that if we just witness somebody doing something, experiencing something, drinking something, smoking, walking a dog, in pain, in pleasure, all these things, we have these mirror neurons that quite literally and pretty immediately duplicate what we imagine that experience to be. And, or if we have had that experience in the past, it immediately just goes to kind of pull that file, so to speak, and bring it top of mind. But it's more than top of mind. It does it in such a way that allows you to feel like you're feeling it, to taste like you're tasting it. Think about this. So many times if you just imagine your favorite dish, or you've got a great memory, most memories are immediately attached to a smell first.
Yes,
because
I heard that.
Your olfactory system is tethered to memory imprints in ways that, other sensations aren't. And so that's why our strongest memories and our strongest sensations usually have more than one kind of tactile function. So it's smell usually, and then we can visualize it, we can remember it, we can almost imagine what it's like to touch it, and even to taste it. And so mirror neurons, I believe, are the basic premise of that. And what he does so well, and so many other people now looking into the science of, well, if I'm witnessing somebody drinking a cup of coffee, maybe smoking a cigarette, if anybody's had a cigarette or had a cup of coffee, you can pretty quickly know what that feels like, know what that tastes like. And you can, I can even go back to that memory kind of thing. Well, the same thing goes for gratitude. The same thing goes for pain. The same thing goes when we see somebody suffering, when we see somebody in pleasure, when we see somebody in a practice of gratitude. Well, if we've even had a glimpse of that in the past, or maybe we've just been reading about it, studying about it, and we have a better understanding of it, and it's not this foreign concept to the brain is always looking for ways to just make connections faster so that it doesn't have to just be in limbo. And so I think the whole aspect of mirror neurons and the neurology and science behind gratitude and just witnessing other people living a prosperous life is a hell of a start to a way that we can do it as well.
Well, that's how I start my morning. Is I started with the gratitude practice, and it's the same thing you do, but gratitude practice the minute my eyes open up, and then right into line to the cuddling, the touch, the prayer, getting outside, the movement, water with lemon. I'm still doing the lemon water, but what's interesting what you just said. And it's really powerful. I was just with the University of Georgia. I speak to a lot of the sports teams around the world, right? And corporations. And what we found was we're doing these group visualization exercises, because when I was on the Blue Angels, we did a thing called the brief, and we actually visualized and got ourselves aligned. But what we're learning is it's not just a mental aspect. You actually watch, and they've measured this, that the heart rates start to coincide. The feeling, anytime you're in this group sensation of telling a story or going through a visualization together, you start to connect, back to your word connect. at a deep level. Hey, real quick, you just reminded me. So my grandpa, I know we keep talking Army. And by the way, you were military intelligence, right?
Yeah, I was Army active duty 03 to 09. I was in the MI field. I was a 98 X-ray was my MOS. It got changed about halfway through to a 35 Papa. I was an intelligence analyst, intelligence specialist with a language. I was a Russian linguist.
Russian too. Oh man. Okay. I'm going to have you back, or I'd be happy to be on yours, whatever. The point is, I took the team to Moscow in 92, the Blue Angels. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And that was the first time ever. So you can imagine this, Chase. Berlin Wall came down 89, world's changing. We take the Blue Angels to Moscow. I land Kabinka Air Base, master jet base right outside of Moscow. So many stories on that. But
Molodets.
Excellent.
Excellent.
I said see, but whatever the key is, and by the way, the connection we made with the Russian pilots and people is what's still in my heart, right?
No doubt.
But the cool part that I was talking about, we used to joke around, military and intelligence, they're two oxymorons, right?
That's what a lot of people told me when I told them, in high school. I enlisted, actually, I swore in halfway through high school. My Christmas break, my senior year, my dad drove me from Roanoke, Virginia to Richmond, Virginia to swear in. And then, 6-7 months later, I was in basic combat training. And I went in as an E2, left as an E6. I was a staff sergeant. And
nice. And just for everybody that doesn't know, the staff sergeants are running the Army. Okay. That's the level where really shit gets done, in my opinion.
Yeah. E6 across the board, Army, Marine, Air Force, all the branches. That's your upper tier management. And so I worked my ass off. I was really, really in pursuit. Anybody who knows in the enlistment, the NCO world, I actually technically made E6 in just under 5 years.
Under 5 years. That's amazing. That just doesn't happen.
Just under. It's very difficult to do, but I wanted it. And I got it. Yeah.
Congrats. Hey, I'm looking at our time. I know that you've got a hard stop. I definitely want to have you back. I seriously do. We have so many things we can talk about.
Would be a pleasure.
I also am deeply grateful for you to be so successful as you are. I got 2 questions to end this podcast, and then we'll figure out sometimes how I can support you, because I want to support you.
Yeah.
What are the basic lessons or greatest lessons you learned growing a podcast? You got how many million downloads already now?
Almost 2 million. Yeah. Or pushing 2 million.
And you started at that time. What were the big lessons learned that you share? I know you got a business doing this, and I look forward to learning more about that. But what are those key lessons that somebody who is trying to grow a podcast needs to know?
Well, I'll say if you're brand new to it, know this going into it, that podcasting is a long format and a long game. Long format meaning what we see working so much now on all the other social media platforms, most of the other social media platforms, is very quick, very hard hitting, fast, intense. If you're not cool, if you're not trending in the first 3 to 5 seconds, then you're gone. So that kind of approach doesn't work. Certain shows, and you can get into the whole debate of, well, how long should a podcast be? A podcast needs to be as long as it needs to be. The second that the content stops being valuable or educational or entertaining, then you need to stop. And long format long game, meaning that it is the gift that keeps on giving. So you need to be in it for the long haul. Plan, I'd say commit. If you're going to do a podcast, don't even think you can fairly get a full representation of this is quote successful or not until you've done at least a year. Only then you can really evaluate what's working, what's not, what's my ROI, do I have a great marker for success? And then other than that, just it's consistency, hands down. Any podcast will tell you, just keep showing up, keep to your schedule as much as possible, keep putting out content, because that content is evergreen. It's always there, and you're going to see more downloads come. Like my episodes from 4 years ago still get downloads today, because people are always looking for this type of content, whatever the topic was maybe years ago or right now. But then also think outside of the box. If you Google and you look up how to launch a podcast, how to be a successful podcaster, there are going to be a lot of tried and true things. If these are the top 3, top 5 things you must do, and sure, I would probably agree with a lot of those. There needs to be this kind of core infrastructure, but at the end of the day, be okay with throwing all that out the window, because your show is your show. You are you. Your audience is going to come for you and the uniqueness and the value that you bring. So think outside of the box, have consistency, have discipline, have structure, have that kind of core system there, but be willing and expect to change it all up. Think outside of the box. Podcasting has grown so much of what it used to be. And so if you can stay with it and stay with the trajectory of it, and the demands of the audiences, then you're going to make it. Don't stay married to what, somebody is telling you. This worked well for me in my show 5 to 8 years ago when I launched, because that was true then. And it's a different game now.
Wow. Great advice. I want to go to about 3 levels deeper, because once you're successful at year 1, or you've survived year 1, let's say, how do you actually grow a podcast, right? To the length that you do. And by the way, I had Johnny Mosley on a few hours ago.
Yeah.
And, talk about, out of the box. He's really not out of the box for us, because we're all about high performance. And when you take an Olympic athlete who won a gold medal, and then you actually find out that he really changed the sport, with inverted stuff. And we started talking about the Blue Angels, which we didn't get much into this time. And you realize, what? There's a lot of similarity. But between being successful, and I would even suggest as an entrepreneur. And good luck on your worldview, what you're off to do.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm excited about that. Going into space, we'll talk more about that. But just want to end with, I want to keep going, but I want to honor our commitment. I want to end with a glad to be here share out. So what does glad to be here mean to you right now in this moment?
I love that question. And glad to be here. It makes me think of what I was sharing earlier of you are exactly where you are supposed to be, because I think glad to be here is the necessary and the complementary next step to you are exactly where you're supposed to be, because it's this mindset that if we choose to adopt, I am right here right now because I'm supposed to be right here right now. Therefore, I want to choose to be glad to be here.
Yeah.
And I actually get some pushback sometimes when I share that on social media, because people are like, well, some people are in a crappy situation, Chase, or I'm not happy where I am, or I just lost my job, or my girlfriend broke up with me, or, that sucks. Shit happens. But you know what? If you choose right then and there to look for the gratitude in it, you're going to also look for the opportunity, because you can't find opportunity if you're not in a place of gratitude. Who wants to be thankful for their business failing, or losing their job, or their dog running away, any of these, problems in the world? But if you can choose to be, it has to be a choice of, I am right here right now because I'm supposed to be, and I also am glad to be here, then there's an opportunity here, and I'm going to look for it. I'm going to find it, and I'm going to excel with it.
Man, you nailed it, buddy. I mean, the idea of that gap between a stimulus and a response is where glad to be here sits, right? And we all get to make choices, right? We could choose love or fear. Basically, it's the 2 things. You're either choosing fear or you're choosing love. And I, like you mentioned it earlier, you're all about love, right? And that actually, and now we've studied this, is it actually does change the way you perceive the world. Because this glass half empty, glass half full, they're both right. It depends on your perspective, right? And that glad to be here gap there, the choice makes a big difference. So really wanted to say thank you for that, because you do get the but honestly, in reality, let's be real, we got problems, and I'm like, that's true, and you can change that. Right. You can change that with this gratitude. So I want to thank you. I'm going to end with my glad to be here. I want to say thank you, Chase, man. It's been fun getting you on the show. I know how busy you are. I'm actually so grateful for the wisdom that you were able to share with everybody, myself mostly included. There's so many things that I think we have in connection, and I'm really grateful for the passion I see in you. You're making a huge difference, and I see the excitement of you're already successful in one world, and you got something evolving, right? You got something growing.
Yeah, that's the squirrel brain entrepreneur, I guess. It's a blessing and a curse, because once you realize once you apply yourself and you grab hold of that idea and you work on it, it can come to fruition. They don't always turn out how you expect, but something happens when you put purpose to passion and you apply yourself. And so I'm very excited for where the world's going to take me and where I'm going to take the world.
Man, and for everybody, you know, Ever Forward, still the best way to get a hold of you, Ever Forward Radio.
Yeah, you can find me on the show, Ever Forward Radio. We multiple episodes a week, every platform, wherever you listen to podcasts. And then if I'm not on the podcast, I'm on the gram. Instagram is at Chase_Chewning. Beautiful.
We'll get that in our show notes. You're the expert, man, buddy. By the way, have good travels. Good luck in your passion, and super grateful. Glad to be here.
John, it was a pleasure and an honor. Thank you, sir.